and being validated does not mean everybody agrees with us. Best friend is not a yes man or a yes woman that's just like, yeah. Oh, I can't believe they said that. Or that's not a best friend. Those are the people that tend to disappear over time, or the people you're not necessarily close to. Guess what? There's friction. When there's friction, when there's misunderstanding, when there's no validation, when there's overpowering in the conversation, we don't feel heard, we don't feel understood, we don't feel validated, and therefore what happens is we actually feel rejected. Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to the FCS Prep Podcast, where I am your host, Dr. Keith Fairclough. Guys, we're back with another one. We're going to take a small break from personal responsibility, and we're going to drop back to unconditional love, because as all this is churning in my brain and churning in my spirit, something kind of just hit me about unconditional love, and I think it's really, really important for us to discuss and talk about. It is going to be another maybe like 3 or 4 part series, so just make sure you stay tuned because we're gonna break it all down. But before we begin, there's a few housekeeping things. Guys, if you haven't liked, comment, and subscribed to any of the videos yet, go ahead and make sure you do that now. Go ahead and click the little thumbs up button, click the red subscribe button. Go ahead and share it as well with people who you think might benefit from this information, right? Because the whole purpose of what I'm doing, I don't like things to be complicated. All right. If in case anybody has noticed, I do not like things to be complicated. I hate complicated things. As a matter of fact, sometimes when things get too complicated, I just say, forget it. Like, it's just too much. I like to just keep it really simple because, guys, things don't have to be as complicated as people in this world make it out to be. Do you know that there are actually people who make things complicated just so they can profit? They talk this high level to make it seem like I'm this big time expert person that you need to listen to me and don't worry about it and let me use a whole lot of big words and all that. Like, why? If I have information I want to get to you, I want to make sure I get it to you in the easiest, most digestible possible way. So I like to keep things simple. Share this information with everybody you know, right? Like, comment, and subscribe. And also, quick tip about watching like podcasts and things like that on YouTube or whatnot. If you are watching it on YouTube, you don't necessarily have to sit here and look at me the whole time, right? You could put it on as you're doing dishes. You can put it on as you're getting ready in the morning. You can put it on while you're in the car. You don't have to actually look at it. It's the content that's more important, not so much my face and what I'm wearing and things like that. So just a few housekeeping things. Let's get into it, right? The ultimate desire. Yes, today we're talking about the ultimate desire. And this is heavily tied to unconditional love, right? Because unconditional love truly is ultimate desire. But the question is, what does that look like and how do we get it? So, and I'm not going to drag it out. The ultimate desire is to be understood and validated. That is the ultimate desire. That is how we feel loved unconditionally, because we are understood and we're validated. It does not mean that everybody agrees with us. Let me say this one more time. Being understood and being validated does not mean everybody agrees with us. It simply means that the person that I am engaging with says, I see you as a person, I see your thoughts, I see your feelings, I see your beliefs, and while I don't agree, because they're important to you, and because I value you as a person, as a human being, I see you, I hear you, I love you regardless. And that is what we desire. I want you to take a stock, right? Stop real quick. I want you to think about the people who you love the most in your life and the people who love you the most in your life. And I want you, I promise you, I want you to tell me that the people that you're closest to don't understand you, don't validate you, don't listen to you, and don't accept you, right? I promise you every last person does, and I promise the people that are closest to you are the people that understand you and validate you the most. And it doesn't necessarily mean, again, that they agree. So, perfect example, if you have a best friend that's willing to check you on certain things, right? You're willing to receive that because why? Because they hear you, they understand you, they validate you, but they're willing to correct you if they see you going down the wrong path. That's what a best friend does. A best friend is not a yes man or a yes woman that's just like, yeah. Oh, I can't believe they said that. Or that's not a best friend. Those are the people that tend to disappear over time, or the people you're not necessarily close to. A real best friend, someone when you're in love. Listen, even the best marriages are built off this. When you're heard, validated, and understood, that's when you feel loved the most. That is our ultimate desire. But how do we get there? How do we get to that point where we're understood and validated so we can feel that unconditional love the most? How do we get there? We get there through communication. Because if we're not communicating properly, right? If we're trying to convey information in the wrong way, or someone's not receiving it the right way, guess what? There's friction. When there's friction, when there's misunderstanding, when there's no validation, when there's overpowering the conversation, we don't feel heard, we don't feel understood, we don't feel validated, and therefore what happens is we actually feel rejected. Even if it may not necessarily be personal, we do feel rejected, because it's like, even if you don't agree, the fact that you're not even listening to me is telling me you don't even count me as a person, that I don't matter. And it goes back to those 3 negative beliefs we talked about in some previous videos, right? Of being unlovable, of being unworthy, or being a victim. They usually spawn out of this lack of communication, or people not validating us, or people not understanding us, or not even taking the opportunity or chance to try to understand us. You know, because what happens is a lot of people in conversation, what they want to do is they want to overpower us. They want to talk over us. They want to make sure they get their point across. They don't listen to understand. They listen to answer and to respond, just to push their point, push their agenda. And then when you do that, it makes you, the other person, feel like, dang, you don't care about me. If you don't think about it in the moment, it goes back to that. That's what it leads back to. It's a form of rejection. I'm gonna say that one more time, because this might change your marriage, this might change your relationship, this might change your relationship with your kids, with your parents, with your coworkers, with your subordinates. This might change everything for you. When you don't listen and validate, when you don't try to understand the other person, you are rejecting them. You may say it, oh, well, no, I'm not rejecting. No, you are rejecting them. Because what you're saying is, you are so little, you are so insignificant. Your thoughts, your feelings are so worthless that they're not even worth me taking time to understand. They're not even worth me taking time to validate. What I think and what I feel, my perception, is way more important than you. That's what you're communicating. That is what you're communicating when you don't take time to understand, when you don't take time to validate, when you yell, when you scream, when you try to overpower. That is what you do. And you leave the other person feeling hurt. And that hurt leads to either anger or it leads to sadness. Here it goes, right? Unconditional love. To get the unconditional love, we have to communicate, right? In order to communicate, we got to make sure that we are heard, validated, and understood, not agreed with. When that doesn't happen, it's a form of rejection. That rejection leads to hurt. That hurt leads to either anger or sadness. Either you're going to explode or you're going to implode. That's the progression of it. That's what happens. And before I put it all on the other person, it is very important for the person who's trying to be validated, who's trying to be understood, to communicate properly. Because if you don't communicate properly, then it's very difficult for someone else to understand you. It's very difficult for someone else to validate you. When you don't take personal responsibility, see, it all ties in. It's very difficult for someone to understand you and validate you, because you spend all your time blaming everybody else and blaming every system and blaming everything. Someone on the outside might be like, bro, do you not see that? Like, I hear what you're saying, but do you not see your part in it? The fact that you failed that test because you didn't study, you wanted to party all weekend. The fact that you got fired because you're late every day. The fact that your marriage is falling apart is because you're not doing what you're supposed to do. Like, you don't see the fact that you don't see that? So personal responsibility is a big part of being heard, validated, and understood in order to get the unconditional love that's available to you. We gotta be able to communicate. It is huge. It is valid. That's our ultimate desire. And here's the thing, guys. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, purple, blue, pink, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Every single human being wants to have that unconditional love. They want to be validated and they want to be understood. And we should understand that that does not mean you have to agree with me. You don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Validate. Hey, I see where you're coming from. I hear what you're saying. I hear you. I see you. Because you know what that says? You're important. You matter. Your thoughts are important. Your feelings are important. You as a human being have intrinsic value, and I see that value. You know, at work, I do this with the kids. I do this with the students that I work with. Why do I do this with the students that I work with? Because children historically, across the board, everywhere, are usually not validated, and they're usually not understood, period. And we wonder why the mental health of kids is so bad. Because we as adults, I'm just going to put it out there, we as adults don't validate kids. We say your feelings aren't important. We say that issue you have is not important. We say, oh, you're going to get over it. Oh, big up. Oh, man up. Oh, woman up. You know, get tough. Stop crying. We completely invalidate children. Damage them, tear them apart. They can only be so resilient. They can only bounce back so much before it takes root that, dang, I don't matter. So then again, I've been rejected, I'm hurt, and I've been hurt and rejected for so long that I gotta make a decision. And my decision is either I'm going to be hurt and angry, or I'm going to be hurt and sad. And so that you see the kids go in these two separate directions. They either implode, they become depressed, they become anxious, they become bipolar and all these other things, or they become angry and they become oppositional defiant. They start to fight, they start to get angry, they start to yell and scream and do all these things like that. It's dysfunctional in both ways, but we create it because we show the kids that you don't matter. Why? Because we're not listening. We're not validating. And while yes, it may not be important to us, but it's important to them. And because it's important to them, they are important. And that's why we listen. That's why we validate. That's why we try to understand. That's why we give them that time. That's why we ask them questions. That's why we do it. And guess what? We are no different from children. And I bet my bottom dollar that every single person watching this podcast, if you go back to your childhood, you will see that your parents did the exact same thing to you. You came to them with a concern, you came to them with the issue, and you were invalidated. Your feelings weren't validated, your thoughts weren't validated, nothing was validated, and you left hurt, you left rejected. And you had either two options. Either I'm going to take it out on the world and everybody else, or I'm going to take it out on myself. Either way is not good. So guys, we have got to, so important, this ultimate desire will change. If you learn how to give people their ultimate desire, if you learn how to communicate, how to talk, how to listen, it will change your life forever. And side note, if you are engaging with people who you try to communicate with, and it's clear as day, and they still don't want to listen, they still don't want to validate you, they still don't want to understand you, they can continue to reject you, then you have to understand that this person doesn't deserve to be in my life because I have value as a person. I have value as a human being. And there's no way on God's green earth that you're going to sit here and be in my life and in my circle and tell me I don't have value. You got to go. You got to go. I don't care if you've been dating for 10 years. You got to go. I don't care if you've been at that job that person's got to go. You got to cut them off. You've got to cut these people off. Because that is poison to your mind and poison to your spirit. And beyond even all that, you have value. You are lovable, you are worthy, and you're a victor and not a victim. So you don't deserve to have that type of treatment, and they don't deserve to be in your life. I know it's a complete side note. I don't want to get on my... Let me reel it back in. Let's bring the bad boy to a close. Guys, so important, this ultimate desire. And we're going to go into more detail, We're going to talk about rejection. We're going to talk about how it leads. We're going to talk about the anger aspect. We're going to talk about the sadness aspect. We're going to talk about better communication skills. We're going to talk about a couple of these different things, so stay tuned. There's more to this series. I'm telling you guys, this is going to change your lives, period, because it's the ultimate desire. It's the one thing that every single human being wants. It's the unconditional love and proper communication, and being heard and understood and validated is how we get it. So again, if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you haven't liked it, go ahead and like it. Listen, if you haven't shared it yet, go ahead and share it. Get this to as many people as possible, because we're going to change lives. Remember, FCS, it's improving the world by improving you. And FCS Prep, this podcast, is real change right now. Because if you start implementing the things we talk about in our videos, you're going to experience real change right now. Not 10 years from now, not 50 years from now, not a week from now. If you apply it today, you're going to see change right now. All right? I love you all. Y'all take care. Have a great, awesome, and blessed day. And I'll see y'all soon with the rest of this series.